everything that we're talking about right now is all based in rumor mill. So it still is 100% a rumor. There is an update from Windows Central on a little game called Killer Instinct. And I don't know if any of this shit is true. I don't know if there is any validity to this stuff, but it's definitely rumor stuff that's been kicking around, and there's a good reason they're posting about it, because the source is saying, multiple sources are saying the same thing. Before, when we were talking about this, there were other people that were saying the same thing, and now this is coming from a different facet that is actually talking about Killer Instinct and its development. But here's the crazy part. The rumor was also stating that the development might not actually be in the US. That Killer Instinct, a Microsoft game, could be made in Japan. What's the deal with KI? Microsoft's painfully underrated fighting game has slipped into the shadows for now. And KI is an aggressively underrated free-to-play fighting game that reigns the best Xbox One games on PC and console. Launched in a relatively slim state, but DH and Iron Galaxy worked hard to inject more content into the game, and the final result was a beefy fighting game with industry-leading netcode, impressive accessibility, a high skill cap, but sadly it failed to make a serious dent in the small but passionate fighting game scene faced up against titans like Smash Bros. And Street Fighter. Yeah, relatively true. It begs the question, each platform has its exclusive fighting game, with PlayStation swiping Street Fighter with an exclusive deal from Capcom, and Nintendo with Smash Bros. There are some great third-party options, like all of these. But KI could be the platform-defining experience for Xbox with the cult classic status, originally developed by internal studio Rare. Yeah, there was at one point, I think Phil Spencer specifically spoke about KI when Street Fighter kind of jumped ship for... When Street Fighter jumped ship for PlayStation, Phil Spencer said, that's fine, we have Killer Instinct. Talking about Ultra Arcade with the KI World Cup, which just happened, me talking about some shit. Phil Spencer commented on a podcast that they'd like to do something with KI, acknowledging that the fan responses and dedication to the IP. Will that something actually translate into a game? Well, here are some vague hints that it might be happening. Rumors of a new Killer Instinct abound. Let's just talk through this and see what the likelihood actually is, and if you guys should be in any way excited about what's going on, because I kind of want to know myself where they're boiling down all this information to. Nick said that he heard Killer Instinct reboot may be needed or in the works. I haven't been able to ascertain as for sure what is indeed true, but Nick has a solid track record with sourcing, and there are some other hints that Microsoft may be exploring the fighting game scene. This was when we first talked about. This was when the rumor first kicked off about what the heck might be happening with KI. So it's like, oh, okay. I mean, that's interesting, but okay. So here's the interesting thing. In December, it was revealed that Microsoft had hired Mortal Kombat veteran Aaron Pipergerds, my apologies for pronouncing that wrong, as an executive producer for Xbox Game Studios. And they had worked on Mortal Kombat all the way back to the Midway game days, and later at NetherRealm with Warner Brothers. It stands to reason that if you are interested in building a fighting game franchise, you might hire this person to oversee it. Okay, I definitely didn't know that happened. That's pretty interesting that that happened in December. They've also heard the vaguest of unsubstantiated rumors that one of Bandai Namco's fighting game development teams may be involved. Because Bandai Namco, for anyone that's curious, Bandai Namco is a absolute giant company, like a huge company. So they don't just have one game team that makes Smash Brothers or Tekken. They have an absolute ton of resources at their disposal. They're honestly one of the biggest video game development companies in the world. They haven't been able to independently verify that yet, but previously speaking at an event, someone at Xbox told me that they were finding a studio or building a team with a specific expertise to make a fighting game, and that was difficult. Naturally, Bandai Namco is responsible for franchises like Soul Calibur, Tekken, and Smash Brothers. No. This is funny. Contributed to Smash Brothers Ultimate? No. They made Smash Brothers Ultimate. No, they created it. They didn't contribute. No. The only person that was not a Bandai Namco employee that made Smash Brothers Ultimate was Sakurai and his wife. So no. Bandai Namco made that whole ass game. It would make sense for them to get involved if indeed Microsoft is exploring reviving the classic fighter. Why is Killer Instinct making sense for 2022 Xbox? KI could make a lot of sense for Microsoft in a cloud-oriented Xbox Pass game world. KI is among the games that work surprisingly well on cloud gaming thanks to its fixed camera perspective. Modern fighting games could also take the service-driven approach, which is a very much Microsoft wheelhouse. Free-to-play can be an incredibly lucrative and successful if done right. We were just talking about free-to-play fighting games not that long ago. Microsoft has mountains of characters it could leverage as guest characters too, and we've already seen them do it in 2013. Arbiter, Gears of War Ram, Battletoads Rash, Cross IP, a great way to advertise a title to new potential buyers. Since they may jump in for the opportunity to play as their favorite characters, building onto each decent campaign is also a low-stakes way to get new players into the game too. All things considered, this seemed to be a good argument for a modern reboot of KI with cloud-aware aspects on mobile devices, cross-platform gameplay, PC consoles and beyond, but whether or not it'll actually happen truly remains to be seen, but a few pieces seem to be falling into place. So, what do I have to say about this? Bandai Namco is the rumored developer of a new Killer Instinct game. That does immediately proc my interest that Microsoft is actually willing to give the game a budget. Number one, it means that they're actually taking Killer Instinct seriously, right? So if that's the case, and they were actively searching for a dev, but there was essentially no teams that could put the game together in the US market, that they would eventually go to Japan, is that they're probably looking for someone that can push the graphical fidelity of the game and also have the experience necessary to do this shit. But Bandai Namco has a really, 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 really funny aspect to all of their fighting games. All of their netcode sucks. To be blunt, most of their fighting games, if not almost all of them, I think that have come directly from them are not rollback and are archaic-ass delay-based fighting games. I was personally hoping that it was going to be like Arc System Works or something like that. I was like sitting in the back of my head, I'm like, man, maybe Phil and, Matt Booty and the guys that run Microsoft are like, well, if we want to do KI, let's do... we had a great demonstration with Dragon Ball FighterZ because that was mostly Xbox marketed, and that game obviously did well on Xbox and did well everywhere. And it's like, why don't we just do a Killer Instinct like that? And I'm like, dude, like, that would be... To me, I see that as being a potential possibility. At the same time, this does make a lot of sense to me too. It does make a lot of sense that they would approach Japanese devs to do this, and they would actually have a budget consideration. And yes, about the netcode thing, it is definitely a problem. But here's the thing. Just in terms of what I'm aware of Killer Instinct's development, Microsoft is aware that they had like a diamond in the rough with KI. They're pretty aware that they were able to hit on systems and sales models, like distribution models. They essentially created the season pass. They were able to make the game technically free to play, like almost 10 friggin' years ago. There's a lot of things that Killer Instinct did and executed on very well. Not to mention its netcode and accessible gameplay that's like easy to jump into but really hard to be good at. All the things that make KI amazing, right? I'm pretty aware that Microsoft is aware that all those things are critical for KI. In fact, it's probably the thing that has prevented them from just immediately jumping in and making a new Killer Instinct. The stuff that Phil has talked about, which we've actually talked about in video form before, kind of boil back where it's like, dude, they know that this is not going to be easy. This is not going to be a thing that they're just going to immediately be able to, oh, we'll just hire some dev and they'll be able to do it, In that situation, even if Bandai Namco is involved, here's like the win-win scenario. Here is the absolute win-win scenario in this situation, because the netcode thing is the number one point of contention and topic of like Killer Instinct going to Japan, potentially going to Bandai Namco hands. I don't see a situation where KI falls into a developer like this and they don't money hat the holy hell out of figuring out the online. This is something that has to work out because it was a high priority for the original game, and it was like a genre-defining industry standard. Like, everyone before knows that Killer Instinct's online is fantastic. To me, it's like required. It's not even an issue. Even if it's Bandai Namco doing it, here's the win-win scenario. That if this is true, if this ends up being true in the future, you could see a Killer Instinct from Bandai Namco with rollback netcode, and who was the one to eventually get rollback netcode into the hands of Bandai Namco, potentially not just for the Killer Instinct game, but potentially for other fighting games that they might have? Microsoft. Microsoft and Xbox might actually be the bridge that gaps Bandai Namco to using rollback netcode. It might be thanks to Phil and the Xbox Studios team, if this ends up being true, where they do that shit. I hope so, man, because I'm not gonna lie. If you release a KI and it doesn't have the features, if it isn't as like generally feature rich with at least the robust stuff that the game had inherently back in the original 2013 to 2017 KI, then it's going to be a big problem. It's going to be a big, it's not going to go well. It does not go well for fighting games when you re-release like a new version of a game and it has less stuff and less functionality than the previous versions. That is something that will go over very poorly with the audience. The people that downloaded and played and got KI were spoon-fed some amazing shit. You were spoon-fed a lot of functionality that fighting games did not have and would not get for several years. And KI always had it. So to suddenly not have that shit be there, oh man, that's a rough road. And I would like to think that Microsoft is aware of that. That they're aware that, okay, this was some industry genre-defining shit we did with this game. The only thing we lacked was a budget. And it was pretty clear that on the sweat and labor of people that absolutely loved KI, Double Helix and Iron Galaxy fucking killed it. And they did an extremely good job with very little resources. So, to me, you can't ask a new dev to do all that shit and give them the same resources. You can't. You can't be like, hey, new dev, here's the same budget as before, go nuts. It just doesn't exist. I would like to see this as being true. To me, this could be pretty exciting. And if it is potentially the bridge between Bandai Namco and their archaic netcode for their wide variety of fighting games, then fucking so be it. That's a very weird way. That's a really weird way that Bandai Namco might actually get rollback netcode into their games. I don't like, and people are like, this, what does this mean for Smash Brothers? Oh, trust me, this means literally dick for Smash. Unless there's like another Smash Brothers game in the next 10 years, which according to Sakurai is not really happening. This means really good things for the future of Bandai Namco fighting games, specifically games like Tekken 8. If this shit ends up being true, pretty happy. But it's weird. This is like a murky water. It's all muddied. We don't know exactly what we're looking at yet. And it's definitely a development twist that I would never have expected for Killer Instinct to actually take. Ever since we last spoke about this, there are news sources and several other sources that are backing up the same story, that Killer Instinct is potentially being made in Japan, and it is now potentially being made by Bandai Namco.